Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us for Black Writers Read. My name is Nicole Young Martin, and I am the founder, producer, and host of the series. Welcome to episode 3 of season 4. Today is yet another breezy day here in Northern Connecticut, here in my office. Though I haven't seen the sun in days, I still enjoy this type of weather in comparison to summer's heat and uncomfortable humidity. Viewers, what's the weather like in your backyard? I would love to know in the comment section. Has fall officially arrived yet, or are you still sweating from the high temperatures of summer? So I'm beyond excited to get today started. My apologies for starting late. I got into a really deep discussion with today's guest, who Ina and we met on social media a little bit ago, and this was our first time actually meeting in real time. I'm so excited to talk with her today. Black Writers Read showcases, celebrates, and honors the words, work, and traditions of Black writers from across the country, across genres, across experiences, and across the African diaspora. Black Writers Read is a behind the scenes conversation into the craft and what it means to create as a Black author in today's society. Since starting the series during the summer of 2020, we've hosted over 50 authors representing 10 plus genres from 4 countries and 13 states. Today, we welcome Aina Hunter. Based in Western Massachusetts, Aina Hunter is an artist with a background in journalism, food studies, and Japanese, having studied at Columbia University, New York University Steinhardt, and the University of California, Berkeley. She has written award-winning features for The Village Voice, Essence, Mother Jones, and others. Charlotte and the Chickenman, the inevitable Nigrescence of Charlotte-Noa Tibitt, which was published by Tit Books in 2022, is her debut novel. It's November 2nd, 2059 in Baltimore, and Charlotte-Noa Tibitt, the downwardly mobile adult daughter of a popular HelloCast lifestyle coach, feels like death. A few months before Charlotte and her Eurindigenous girlfriend scored a sweet, subsidized apartment in the building, chock full of fellow queer, radical feminist animal rights activists. But when an unspeakable right wing candidate again wins the US presidency, Charlotte seeks refuge in a luxury rooftop hotel bar, and life begins to unravel. So now it's time to stop mourning, get back on the bus, make a plan, start over. All of this on a screaming planet divided into ethno-states, mostly controlled by South Africa's ruling Economic Freedom Party and their right-wing, anti-Black opposition, the urine supremacists of the new, broader band. Charlotte could probably use some trauma therapy, but first a quick trip to Haiti for a medical thing. And while she's there, maybe she can find some comfort at the receiving end of a controversial reparative food justice initiative, which may or may not be sanctioned by new CARICOM's shadow government. Not only am I excited to have Aina on today, I'm excited because she is our very first science fiction author. I've had a plethora of genres on. I have been waiting to have a science fiction author on because I love the things, especially that Black women and Black women identified femme folk within that genre are doing yesterday, from like the 70s with Octavia Butler to today. So it's such a privilege to have Aina on to talk as a science fiction author. For those of you who are new to Black Writers Read, here's the format of our series. Aina will first read excerpts from her work. Then we'll chat about her book and writing career. If time remains at the end of our conversation, we'll open it up to Q&A for those of you who are joining us. We have viewers joining us today from both Facebook and YouTube. If you have a question, please feel free to include it in the comment section on the platform where you're joining us from today. I will compile the questions and either pose them to our guests following our conversation or insert them during an appropriate time during our chat. I now like to welcome Aina Hunter on too. the virtual stage.
Oh, I'm so happy to be here, Nicole.
Yay! This is such an amazing work. This is so awesome. As people can tell, I have my highlighter marker in here. I've been highlighting stuff. This book is brilliant. If you haven't ordered it yet, please do. Like it's amazing. So thank you
My
for
heart
your
is
work.
exploded again. It makes me so, so happy to hear you say that. As we were talking before, I wrote this book for you, for girls like me and you. And although we're grown-ass women, I say girls deliberately because we have these little lost, weird girls, weird little Black girls inside of us that have were kind of felt alone and felt on the outside. And this is for the little girl that was in me and that was in you and that was in who hopefully, I mean, as many, I just hope, I hope. Yeah.
So the stage is yours. Have fun reading.
I'm going to read from the last chapter, chapter 13, which is called The Yellow Rope. And this chapter actually originally was chapter 1. One quirky thing about this book is that it's written from front to back. It's written in reverse. So even though this is chapter 13, it actually is a good introduction to the book. Summer 2031, first an epigraph. So much love and hate involved in eating, to kill something and eat it. Kara Walker. Available. Clean mother's helper, babysitting, housework, and errands gladly completed. Je parle français et moi parle créole haïtien. As Fredine stood heavily in the living room, wrapped up like a chocolate in her funny nylon dress, the sort of dress only an immigrant could find appropriate for a summer day in the Louisiana heat, Nicole pitied and loved her. From the sunken living room sofa, Ada squinted and smiled, encouraging, leaned forward for a better look at the thick, sad thing, squeezed and folded into a cream-colored blazer, ruffles poking out, and Ada counted not 1, but 2 diaphanous layers of pink skirt, but exactly like the Saint Valentine's Day chocolate. C'est exact. As the painful syntax and stilted carriage promised, Fredine lacked both wit and charm. And yet, she did seem honest and suitably cautious as she fielded questions from mother and daughter. Studying medicine, mesdames. Enjoy the reading and the cooking activity. No time for boyfriends, mesdames. Fredine did speak lovely French. Exquisite. And her manners were nice. Nice enough. A night student at the university, she could come every weekday morning, which would take the burden off of Ada, although Ada insisted it was no burden at all. And Nicole, a keen judge of character, decided right then and there that beneath Fredine's coarse exterior was a gentle soul. Well, this thick-waisted, flat-eyed, peaky-haired Haitian girl would be a sturdy yet malleable addition. Giving her dense flesh a squeeze, Nicole drew the girl out of the foyer, down 2 little steps, and into the living room proper. Front and center stood a Victorian baby carriage, a navy blue antique with a sweeping hood. When Fredine balked before the pram's gaping mouth, Nicole pressed her manicure deeper into the girl's forearm. The pinch worked, and the girl bent in and fixed her lips, but empty. Nothing to see but a clump of wrinkled linen. Fredine will wonder if she should run. But small black eyes pop open, and, well, there it was, a sallow little face, halved by a white crocheted skull cap. A poached egg of a face, the rest bundled up in linens. The baby howled, and Nicole swept her up. Qu'est-ce que? Wet again? She laid the tiny body flat to her chest and shoulder. Not wet, she said, eyebrows raised. She glanced toward her mother. Ada responded with an exaggerated shrug. Nicole murmured into her infant's fat neck, but Charlotte was already quieting. She took great gulps of air and hiccuped. With Fredine blocked from view, Charlotte came to peace. Nicole, frowning, peered into her crumpled face. So much terrible noise, so much fuss, and for what, Angelique? Exhausted, the infant slept, and Ada clucked. My golden grand bébé, my sweet golden grand bébé. And yet, to Eurindigenous people, and also to Fredine, Nicole's baby appeared more jaundiced than golden. A cradle of urine, Fredine was thinking, when Nicole passed to her the sleeping child. Fredine accepted and cradled the infant against her bosom with confidence. Nasty yellow thing. Nicole and Ada looked on, exchanged a glance, and just like that, c'est décidé. Little Miss Fussy was in good hands with capable, unassuming Fredine. This was meant to be. Certainly Providence sent to them this lumpy black gem, this diamond in the rough. And who knows, over time, and under the care of this Fredine, Charlotte might develop a thicker layer of skin. Not too much thick, but wait a court. Such a fragile vessel, la petite misérable. Where Nicole was tight and dark, her child was broad and blending. Where Nicole was crisp and sharp, her child was blurred and yielding. Poetry aside, Charlotte was a true miracle of modern obstetrics, and every nurse in the unit made time to come see. The delivery was one for the books, for when the surgeon sliced open Nicole's belly, there was Charlotte, neck and chest and limbs looped and wrapped in her mother's cord. Like some sort of cocoon, a young nurse would later recall. And a lot of lanugu, the dark Italian kind, the night supervisor would reply, not disagreeing. A chuckle. Okay, I really shouldn't say this, but you know that wild animal HelloCast, Live Nature? Yeah, no wait, it's Lost Nature. Yeah, Lost Nature. It just popped in my head. Did you see the one with the big ass snake? It's always a python or something. That show is so fake. They rescue this baby monkey. What? This little baby monkey was wrapped in some sort of boa constrictor. Holy shit, I saw that. Matthew made me watch. It was a Burmese python, and I totally remember. Yelps of laughter from both women now. They bend together their heads, covering mouths with hands, eyes tearing, shoulders shaking. It was just after lunch. In the days to follow, Nicole would examine every inch of her baby. Underweight, but not by much, Charlotte's veins glowed blue beneath her thin skin. Tracing the pattern of veins with the tip of one finger, the new mother would think of the dry membrane just beneath the shell of an Easter egg. Discomforted by that permeability, she had click-clack-clacked those thoughts away quick. Motherhood had made a fearless modern woman out of Nicole, and Ada was sometimes impressed. These days, she might even ask her daughter's opinion on shoes or bags. C'est moderne, n'est-ce pas? Ok, j'ai bien compris, Nicole. C'est décidé. Fredine would learn the schedule. Each morning, a brisk walk in the pram, past the shops and through the park. The flower cart man, an old Dominican, would nod in silent appreciation. But the Chinese dry cleaner liked to flirt. Big-eyed lady, big smile, black and beautiful black beauty. And Nicole, teeth shining, would flirt right back. All righty now. You better settle down now. That's how they would talk. Nicole's laughing black eyes reflected like a prism, a splash of hot oil on sizzling hot blacktop. The dry cleaner would hang his head in mock abashment. Perhaps I should speak with your wife, she might continue. No need. I am so sorry. So sorry, he would beg, eyes stretched open in simulated fear. And then they would both laugh. Charlotte's eyes were black too, but matte. They absorbed like sponge tissue. Charlotte would gaze up from the pram and drink their laughter, how it slathered over all the things not said. Fredine had nothing to fear. Emergency phone numbers are right here written down, and she must never hesitate to ask Ada Mama for any little thing, no matter how small. Nicole extended her arms and Fredine passed back to her, the sleeping baby. Nicole moved Charlotte back into the depths of the pram. Yes, certainly Fredine would return Monday morning. She was grateful for the opportunity. Wait, 7:30 sharp. Fredine is never late. Later that evening, mother and daughter ate tinned sardines with crackers and olives and finished the rest of the Chardonnay. The two would speculate. Peut-être, perhaps Miss Fredine is too black? Ada suggested naughtily, a hand to her puffy cheek. Ada's still smooth skin was light-catching tan, bright like cheap kitchen furniture. The women shared a chuckle, for that was ridiculous. A baby is innocent. Anyway, the Tibbit are too sophisticated a family for that sort of idiocy. Provincial Negro nonsense. It's not that, Mom. This from Nicole too quickly. Lottie's accustomed to beauty. C'est naturel, n'est-ce pas? She simply doesn't like ugly. And mother and daughter swallowed their giggles in guilty good humor again. Beneath Nicole's tired old joke, however, was a pin-pricking she could not name, nor upon which she wished to dwell. The deepest brown of her two siblings, Nicole was jungle hardwood. She got it from her father. Ada was fair as pine tree pulp. When Nicole was a very little girl, she'd been desperate for a puffy sweater the color of cherry blossoms. For 6 weeks, a yellow, ponytailed mannequin, a girl with a satchel, posed in the window of Dillard's. But shopping for school clothes, Ada tried to distract. Over here, Nicole! Just look at this twin set. But Nicole would not be distracted. From the top of the elevator, she pleaded and begged until Ada, pumps biting her feet and weighed down with packages, reached out and snatched her eldest daughter by the arm. She jerked her in close. You stop this foolishness, Nicole. You are too dark to wear pink. Never mind. Nicole looked forward, not back. And both she and her mother slept well that night, and also the night after that. The next day was Monday. Dressed crisp for work, Nicole gazed into Charlotte's face and pushed the pram 3/4 of the way to the park, Fredine plodding behind. What will we see in the park today, I wonder? Nicole sang. Charlotte's eyes were hardly big enough to drink in her mother's song. Will we see ducks? Will we see squirrels? Charlotte blinked her little wet eyes. Will you show them to Tante Fredine, your Auntie Fredine, Belle Fredine? Charlotte slept. Nicole beckoned Fredine forward, beckoned her with urgent flips of her hand, tipped in pale polish. She slowed but didn't stop, kept the carriage moving forward, and did a sideways pivot until Fredine's 2 hands could grip the bar. Now it was Fredine pushing the carriage, and Nicole clapped her hands with exaggerated delight. She squeezed Fredine's thick shoulders and fairly danced to the trolley, headed east to downtown. Fredine pushed the pram for nearly an hour, into the park and around the giant slide, and the seesaw, and the Princess Garden, and the Japanese maple. It was sweltering hot. Beneath the trees, sheltered from the sun, a breeze dusted over her skin wherever the branches rustled. Like a powder puff, barely perceptible, a dry kiss. Fredine let her mind drift. What might she order for dinner? Last night's cell shrimp was a delicious surprise. More like shrimp than actual shrimp, but God knows what's in it. A whimper from the pram. C'est bon, bébé, Fredine murmurs. The volume increases and Fredine must stop to investigate. Baby and Nanny lock eyes, and then how she screamed. Charlotte howled and shrieked like a demon. Passers-by, an odd pair of women, sharing a battered and sun-bleached parasol, frowned their annoyance, and Fredine is distracted. The two seem to float, not walking but drifting past in their 18th century summer gowns of gossamer, hats with flowers and veils. The one with a jaw like a blade was colored rich and dark like the sea. Her companion was smaller and reddish. But soon Fredine could pay them no more of her mind, because now before her eyes, mud flecked with blood, chunks of white bone made visible, then sinking. Then came a disembodied suggestion, breathed into both of Fredine's ears. Why not fish it out, poor little fish? Less of a suggestion, perhaps, than the languid command of a woman unaccustomed to contradiction. Fredine, bewildered, thought the voice came from one of the two strange females, but how possible? They were no longer in sight. Oui, c'est vrai, agreed a second feminine voice. What good can come from choking on fear? I'd like to stop there for a moment. Or I could go on. I'd like to go back a little bit. I have my reasons. I'm going to go back to chapter 1. Chapter 1 is called White Meat, Charlotte Takes Communion. Epigraph. Here is a candle to light you to bed. Here is a chopper to chop off your head. That's from an old English children's rhyme. If you ever get the chance to try a really fine thigh steak, a citrus-marinated, pepper-roasted steak de thigh, you want to give yourself time to prepare. Psychologically. Because I'm sure you think cannibalism is perverted, like in a bad way. So to make the most of it, you'll want to talk down your prejudgments. Palate cleanse. And I really want you to give this thing serious thought, because that boat-sick swell of jaundice, that gut-jerk reaction of yours is based on nary a fact. Not one single tenet in the entire science of nutrition says human flesh is any different from pork or chicken. As far as our metabolic systems are concerned, meat is meat. Just hello search it. And I'm not suggesting we make it a habit. I'm still vegan in every practicable sense. I'm still the same Charlotte, ox outside the gate and level 2 field operative for the non-human animal rights collective. So, I don't have all the answers, just my own experience. Anyway, you want to draw a line between all this and your white friendlies back home, because this isn't personal. This superlative thigh steak dinner has nothing to do with the earnest and complex Eurindigenous human animals you have loved or survived. This is not the coworker who helped you emergency pee in the train, not your second-year roommate, not that stupid bitch you fucked, nor the hateful one who fucked you, because they are not here, and they are not this, and this is where euphemisms are useful. No one says thigh steak, It's viande de char blanc. I should probably not say this, but you'll want to disassociate just a little bit. Just at first. I mean, if you're anything like me, black like me, with a very small b. Accommodating, gracious, apologetic, forgiving. And you're ready for me to just move on now, I can tell. And I will, but not just yet, because I need you to know that my citrus-seared thigh steak dinner was more than just 5-star delicious. It was medicinal. Because the thing about eating is that it's more than organs and chemicals and cells. It's what's playing in your head while you chew. All that you're thinking and suppressing when you swallow and digest. January 2nd, 2060. Mahogany Queen Restaurant, somewhere off the coast of Haiti. It's because I like to bite on it and, qu'est-ce qu'on dit, nibble. To nibble on it like this, ouais? T-Luke pretended to nod. I like to bite off the end and suck out the marrow. Clucking her tongue, Margot called his pantomime a vulgarity. Her husband-to-be pretended not to hear, but both mothers seconded her objection with calls of, "That's enough," and "Fermez-les." Fredine warned against letting the soup cool. Tiluc bent his wrist in a precise gesture before drawing his spoon to the northernmost edge of his bowl. Such delicate sensibilities at this table, c'est vrai, he sighed. But tell me, ladies, please, how can we discuss this topic if we cannot speak freely? Consider la filet mignon, perfect example. Because no bone is expected, there is no bone to miss, comprend? And she is cell-cultured perfection itself. You are causing discomfort to our guest, yet she won't tell you to stop, said Margot. I shrugged, preoccupied, too worried about dripping or spilling to be annoyed by her calculated choice of possessive pronoun. You know, she was a guest too, not just me. They weren't married yet. Wait, inappropriate for the dinner table. This from Big Luke. And not only because of our guest. True, quite right, c'est vrai ça, agreed Fredine. The old black ones list many strong reasons behind the new bone meat restrictions, she said, resting her spoon and helping herself to Big Luke's bread. They are based upon a terribly sad reality. Wait, but I thought, stumbling over my words, I mean, if it's illegal to eat cows and pigs, how is it legal for us to eat, this? No, from Margot. Not illegal to eat. It is the confinement and the, the breeding, which is now prohibited. Because humans are not farmed, of course. Big Luke accepted more wine from the server. Only culled. And that doesn't even take into account the net gains. Fredine rested her spoon to gesture. It's all very scientific, you know. For every bad seed culled, we must consider and quantify resources recovered, comprend? All the resources to sustain that individual are redirected. Excuse me. Vast amounts of water, for example, are returned to the global commons. Haiti has the most eco-responsive food system in New CARICOM, if not the world. Self-satisfied Margot turned to Tiluc, but he hadn't been listening. I merely suggest a complementary relationship between flesh and the bone. He'd no intention of moving on. Consider, s'il vous plaît, the drumstick of the qu'est-ce qu'on dit, how do you call the famous national bird of the United States? You are speaking of the American bald eagle, Pano. Margot blew gently on her spoon. Not the bald eagle, woman. This is to eat. His accent made it sound like this is to eat. Very popular, very famous bird. Everyone knows it. What is the name of that American big bird? Pushing wire-rimmed glasses up her long, broad nose, Big Luke tried to help. The big bird, the cookie monster, how could you forget? They practically taught to you your English. That is not... Please hold your thought, Monty. Margot quieted her man with a raised finger. Allow me to taste. The soup de song, she must be savored. Tiluc did so, delivering soup to tongue with cheerful obedience. His mothers also drew their spoons north before sipping. The hand holding my spoon, my right hand, threatened to shake. My mother, you should know, is a table manners fiend, but I'm years and years out of practice. I played for time, troweled the surface, skimming forward and back. I had some urgent business to work out in my head because soup means soup, and song means blood, as in soup made from blood. And while it's true I'd come prepared for something like that, it's one thing to think a thing might be true, and quite another to have Margot confirm it. I wasn't going to let her make me look bad again, so I took one small sip, and then another. It tasted strange, but not unpleasant. Peppery and savory, a sweet taste. I'm still searching for words to describe the sulfur-soaked fat sliced with heme, an expanding metallic blend of spice. My lids fell shut for a moment as I inhaled, breathed out, opened them to see each Masso and Margot and our waitstaff and the couple at an adjacent table smiling at me. More than smiling, they were beaming. Beaming is the word. How do you feel? Tiluk spoke first. Is it not all you imagined? I am prepared to wager 20, no, 50 good Haitiens. That's the real money way. How much do you have then? I still had some euro. I'd need it at the airport. Tiluk snorted. Just urine. Okay, never mind the money, but this soup, c'est légal, pano. Never before have you tasted a consommé so delectable. Do I lie? Holding my spoon in midair, I feigned indecision, paused, skimmed, and sipped again. It will do, I guess. Margot rolled her eyes, but Tiluk and the mothers grinned. And each course to follow will taste even better than the last, you will see. They never disappoint. Fradine lowered her voice to add, but you know, Shushu, I do believe I have discovered their secret. It's some sort of a gumbo filet. Just taste again. Soup is baton. Big Luke drew a flourish midair, and then in rich baritone said, sassafras. Genius, Shetty. Fradine Mama has a very fine palate. This from Margot, for my benefit. In the States, you say, qu'est-ce qu'on dit, super taster? I had no idea what she meant, but nodded anyway. Turkey, announced Tiluk. Turkey! Remember the huge turkey bird, the cell turkey sandwich? That is fine. Or in curry, bien sûr. But this I submit, they cannot call it a drumstick. Not a drumstick until they learn to grow the bone properly. It's the little connecting tendon that is very much missed. Aren't they, though, growing bones? I asked, drawing my spoon back and forth. I heard it in the autocar. Something about a new CARICOM cell engineering conference. Weh! International Conference for Meat Engineering, yes. This is now a very big deal in Havana and also Kingston. But in my opinion, waste of resources, Margot's throat cracks. It's not even healthy. Just as much cholesterol as common bone meat. Silence. Margot cast about for agreement. But to my delight, none came. And then from Fradine, healthy. I do not care for that word so much. I'm not sure why. Perhaps you reject its urine colonial connotations, Big Luke frowned. As do I. Tiluk avoided her gaze, and Margot gave up, and then in stiff formal French said that she was not sure she understood. Neither did I, but my spidey sense said Mamselle Sweeter the Juice was about to get schooled. It is the belief system suggested by your word choice, Chetty. This concept of physical health which must suggest a line like this, Sissa. Fingers straight like a blade, Big Luke chopped down on the table, and I jumped in my chair. I'm easily startled. A false boundary between the so-called health of oneself, one's own person, and the well-being of those in one's orbit. Margot was still looking for help, but Tiluk was busy with his bread and oil. I offered up a weak shrug and kept my attention on the mothers. Big Luke continued. This line, this false boundary, comes from the Eurindigenous love of acquisition, need for consumption, with all the attendant consequences, the division, dissection, reduction. Comprend? Margot, relieved, nodded and accepted more bread from Tiluk without looking at him. Big Luke grinned. Kutmwen, I've become a lecturing old bore. You will accept my sincere apologia. I'm afraid it runs in the family, Shetty, she added, eyes resting on her daughter-in-law to be. Fradine was encouraging. Mais c'est vrai ça. You are right, Shushu, and perhaps Sitayi, and the Eurindigenous Chief Seattle said it best. You kids are all familiar with Lamentations, Afamasit, no? I was not, and Margot knew it. Fredine Mama, she speaks of the words of Sitayi, high priestess to King Shagazulu. Maîtresse Sitayi said all animals, including we human animals, and of course, including the Eurindigenous. We're all one with the soil, the water, and the earth. The earth! I jumped in, squeaking like a child. Human and non-human, sentient. No, 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 no. Fredine interrupted, mowing me down. It is not sentient versus non-sentient. This way of thinking, this compartmentalization is the hallmark of the age of Eurindigeny. The false separation, comprends? Oui, madame, I heard myself say, my super polite high school French blending with Margot and T. Luke's equally dutiful, reflexive unison. Then we laughed. Anyway, it's irrelevant because I'm not debating the health of it. T. Luke, I was learning, would not let go of a subject until he'd worn it out completely. But you cannot deny that here on the island of Haiti, we, the people of Haiti, we must have a proper bone. I am otherwise unsatisfied. Margot blew gently on her spoon. I think it is dissatisfied. Pardon? They all looked to me. I had no idea. Both sounded right. Monty has always loved the drumstick, Fredine gazed reminiscently at her son. And the wishbone, he reminds her. I was premier wishbone champ. Yes, the wishbone, who can forget? You should have seen these two placing bets. Good days. We could raise chickens. Not to sell, you understand, said Fredine, addressing me. But just for family and friends, it was okay. Every Sunday, I'd slow roast a whole fresh chicken. T. Luke was so happy to break the wishbone with his grand-père. Grandfather? Yes, well, we used to call Big Luke Grand Luke, you see. And then when T. Luke went to school, he learned to say grand-père, and it took. Is that the right way to say it? Took? If anyone is interested, Big Luke cleared her throat. My most vivid memories of those good days are actually quite disturbing. It was I, you understand, who was tasked with the ritual of betrayal. T. Luke gulped his wine, chortling. A betrayal most foul, Big Luke continued over Fredine's giggle. I called it Bloody Saturday because every Bloody Saturday I was expected to murder an innocent chicken. And not a single offer of help from these so-called bone meat lovers. She waggled an enormous accusatory finger over wife and son as if to say that no self-serving revisionist's version of Massot family history would pass under her watch. Settling into my supporting role, I mirrored Margot's earnest expression. We nodded up at Big Luke like fawning students. Margot broke first. Why do you laugh? Big Luke's eyes bulged, face and neck puffed up with outrage. Mock outrage. You are right, Shushu. It is not fair. Grand-père is right. It was unjust. Fredine was conciliatory. It really is not nice to hear a chicken cry out, especially for Coralie. She is so sensitive. In my opinion, Margot the strategic had regained her footing. Those who want bone meat should be required to participate in the entire conversion process. T. Luke, accepting a fresh dish of oil from his server, changed the subject. Many people are still eating farmed animal bone meat in the States, Pano? Yeah, sure. But mostly in the conflict regions down south and some of the semi-autonomous states, I said. And is it true you will pay more for the breast? For the white meat? Well, I don't. This is my first time for bone meat in years and years, of any description. Fredine said, they used to pay more for it, as did we. But that was so long ago when I was a student. Mama did much of her postgraduate work in South Carolina and Louisiana, T. Luke explained. But dark meat has more flavor, Pano. Margot rested her spoon. It's more, qu'est-ce qu'on dit, wet? Juicy, I agreed. Have you ever wondered, Tiluk reflected, why dark meat is dark? I mean, why is it dark? Margot, mistress of shade, saw an opening for revenge. One could just as easily ask, why is the white meat white? See how that works? Tiluk, annoyed, switched to Creole. Comprends? Pourquoi ça? Some meat, c'est brun et les autres, c'est brun. It can be same animal, Pano. Margot said, ouais, but it isn't how you phrase the question. Those less charitable than family gathered here might find evidence of latent urine colonial bias. She is right, Monty, says peacemaker Fredine. Instead of demanding from the white thing, why are you white? You demand of the dark thing, why are you dark? Eh bien. Dark meat is more vascular, Big Luke said in her reasonable voice. The dark flesh tissue is very dense with blood. This dark flesh, she is the web of veins and capillaries, her leg, her wing, her neck, her back. She needs a great flow of blood to complete her work. A whoop from Tiluk. That tracks, Pano. The white meat just gets carried around. I was snorting my appreciation when Margot said something I didn't quite catch. She brought napkin to mouth, and Fredine's lip twitched. Both Lukes reached for napkins as well, eyes averted, and all at once I knew it was me. I was the joke. My spoon dropped into my bowl as my lungs filled, pushing against implosion. And then I was saved, because just in time, from the heavens, inspiration hit. Clutching my spoon, I hunched forward, forearms resting on the tablecloth, elbows bent to form a protective parenthesis around my soup and bread. Like crabs in a barrel, all y'all negres, I growled, face slack. That's right, I said it. A goddamn shame is what it is. I'd morphed into a bitter old urine, 35 going on 48, a killbot operator in some Delmarva poultry factory hellhole, and I hit every single note. I'm inconsistent, true, but when I'm good, I really am quite good. We all laughed, even Big Luke yelped. Our circle of waitstaff reassembled, and having cleared the table, now stood patiently behind each one of us, concealing their smiles. Even my nemesis, eyes glossy with laughing tears, lifted her globe of Beaujolais in salute. I was gallant, returned the gesture. Truce. Tiluk and Fredine went back and forth in competition, echoing my lines, trying to nail the dialect. A goddamn shame is... No. Mama, c'est a goddamn shame is what it is. We straightened up only to collapse into giggling snorts as 5 servers bearing covered plates gathered around. They stood in silent, tuxedo dignity, waiting for the head server's nod. In perfect synchronicity, they lifted silver lids. We quieted, arrested by the umami-rich aroma of viande de char blanc, smoked medium well. I just don't know how it is that I've never heard of, I struggled for words, restaurants like this, that serve this sort of steak. The people of New Caricom, not only Haitians, but all the Afamasit who call home this continent of coasts and islands. We learned to keep a secret out loud, so to speak. And now white meat is everywhere if one knows where to look. But only aboard the Mahogany Queen can one enjoy a true fine dining experience. Geez, I guess that makes us cannibals. Yeah, I decided to just say it, because no one was saying it, and it seemed like someone had to say it. Big Luke cleared her throat. Bien sûr, but surely at least at the table we speak only of Epicurean cannibalism, and in that case we should also prefer a synonym for that outdated term, a word more neutral and free from the urine colonial odor. Bien. Let us say anthropophagy, which is, of course, the proper term for human flesh consumption. Big Luke pushed back her eyeglasses. Ah, yes, Epicurean anthropophagy. T. Luke gestured for more wine. Now it's a party. The earliest references can be found in ancient Chinese cookbooks, she began, ignoring her son. Some of the most fascinating research, in fact, was published back in the 1980s. Again, we speak only of the properly prepared, culturally sanctioned eating of flesh. After all, modern history is full of desperate people driven by starvation. That is a commonplace, as is the demented cannibal serial killer. But with Epicurean anthropophagy, here we speak of something most civilized and transcendent. I puzzled. But who decides who becomes food and who gets fed? Yes, hence the emphasis on culturally sanctioned. That at least is my academic response. But what you are really asking, I think, is for something more concrete, yes? I nodded, so Big Luke continued. New CARICOM has had applicable regulation on the books for decades. Those most relevant to our current discussion were passed in response to the CAFO COVID variant of 2026. You three were just kids then. At any rate, all meat, no matter the source, must pass through 3 phases before it can be sold. Keeping track and with her fingers, she said, first, the conversion process must be certified gentle finished. Second, the body, the carcass must be butchered and prepared according to local sanitary regulations. But you will find the answer to your real question, I think, within the last phase. Big Luke cleared her throat and continued. If memory serves, it reads as follows. Any creature nominated for protein conversion must meet 95% of the species-specific criteria as listed in the most current New CARICOM Psych Risk Manual. Only then can it be labeled Certified Science Select. I just really had no idea Epicurean anthropophagy. Margot the helpful. Epicurean anthropophagy. Epicurean anthropophagy is a real thing. Honestly, I thought it was a racist myth. You have been sleeping, that's why. That was Margot, dabbing the corners of her mouth. No, Fredine to my rescue. You cannot place blame on any one accident of birth. What if you had been raised in one of the urine-controlled North American regions? Who would you be then? Any of us, for that matter. Big Luke was talking to T. Luke, saying, they like to make the big show of their so-called aversion, so extreme, borderline pathological when you think about it. Yeah, given their long and well-documented history of human flesh consumption. Fredine wondered if consumption was necessarily gastronomic. It wasn't so long ago that physicians in your country would harvest organs, blood, bile from executed criminals. I was floored. Wait, who? What? That can't be true. Margot and T. Luke exchanged looks. Urine Americans in the time of the British Queen Victoria and beyond, oui, c'est vrai. Your people, your countrymen, actually, they still do it, in a sense. Not my people. I said it on reflex, but I was unsure. I looked to the mothers, but they were chattering in Creole and would not be interrupted. So I kicked him hard under the table. He crowed, coughed, ducked, grinning when he resurfaced, excused himself for the toilet. Fredine said something ending in c'est exact. Big Luke switched to English. The hypocrisy, yes, and this is despite the Old Testament's concern with what could be viewed as the desecration of the mother-child relationship in the simultaneous consumption of her milk and meat, still observed in Jewish traditions. The way people eat can be quite culturally revealing, Pano. I find it all so fascinating. Some theorize that in Mesopotamia and Asia, Big Luke was on, having rested fork and knife. The relative absence of dietary restrictions in, for example, the Confucian tradition could have made it an easier sell. What about Buddhism? I asked. Ahimsa. Do no harm to other sentients. And you're a Buddhist, Margot wanted to know, dangling bait. Retracting my claws, I told her, not really. Aspiring, I guess. I'm not even a real vegan. I was thinking about the spider, though, when I said that, not the steak. Fradine looked at me sadly. Eurindigenous culture places such high value on purity, am I wrong? But here in Haiti, in all of New Caricom, I think, we can accept and agree to this small truth. There may come a time to kill. T. Luke added, so say the old black ones. And also the Bible, I'm quite sure. That was Margot. Professor Ki-Ray Chong just rediscovered hundreds of recipes for human meat. Even an ancient book of recipes for human flesh with separate sections for smoked, broiled, baked, sun-dried even. Big Luke was approaching peak animation, mostly from the Sui dynasty. In fact, several dishes served in this very place are based on his notes. I wondered aloud if they ever ate their own people, like maybe the marginal ones, my mother's word. Margot studied my face and told me I looked worried. I stared down at my plate and T. Luke pounced. No need to worry, mademoiselle. Tout le monde, everyone knows that no matter the cut, white flesh is always superior and plentiful. No one here wants to eat your flesh, don't worry. Margot and T. Luke collapsed into each other, howling. Yeah, it was pretty funny, but I refused to laugh. Big Luke said with exaggerated disgust, your very reasonable question has many complex human-sized answers. And then everyone was speaking at once. It went something like, Fradine, certainly the ancients didn't have the benefit of DNA testing, Big Luke. My personal favorite being the Chinese concept of filial piety. Margot, it depends on if we speak of a food culture based on punishment or, conversely, the duty of sacrifice. Fradine. So the eugenics or culling would be understood only in the broadest of terms. And we must not forget about those who went willingly, said a waiter, leaning in on his way to the kitchen. The ultimate sacrifice for the larger good. Also perceived nutritional benefits. This from an elderly patron seated at the next table. And mundane practicalities, agreed a handsome, white-haired woman who must have been his wife. Availability and abundance. Perceived deliciousness. This from T. Luke, before making a show of plunging his face into his fiancée's bosom. Margot yelped. Espresso and cake came and went. And then the ferry home. I just chewed and listened. Kept chewing, although nothing was left in my mouth. Boy. Thank you.
Yes.
Gosh, I'm partway through. I'm thinking, oh, my Haitian French accent, it disappeared. Where is it? Oh, shucks. Should I bring it back? Should I keep it? And wishing I wasn't in the room by myself. I'm wishing I could see the faces, your face and everyone's face, so that I could know. I could take cues from, did that sound stupid? Should I redo that? Oh, God. But yes.
This was great. You actually had someone come on and make a comment while you were reading. I hope I pronounced her name correctly. Millette says, Aina has gotten so good at the voices and languages. So, while you were reading, they were like, yeah, she's doing an amazing job. And then Janine, who's of Janine's World, which is also on YouTube, she says she has good storytelling skills.
Really?
Yes,
Oh,
so your
good.
audience applauds
Good.
you today.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Um, that was difficult. That I have not read that chapter out loud, and there's so many different voices. Charlotte, the main character, of course, has a plain old American accent. She sounds just like me, I imagine. And Margot has a very sophisticated French French Creole accent, but heavier on the French than the others at the table. Her fiance T. Luke, that's short for Petit Luke or Little Luke, T. Luke. He has a French Creole accent, but it's a little bit more casual. And the mothers of T. Luke and Margot's mother-in-law, that's Big Luke and Fredine. Fredine is a very important character in the book. They both have French Creole accents, but Big Luke has a very baritone female voice. Even though she has a male name, she is a woman. And Fredine's voice is different. So this is all very clear in my head, but it's difficult. It's difficult to keep that up in reading. I respect theater people very, very much. Very, very much. Hats off.
You did such a great job, though, flipping characters. That's why I was like, are you sure you don't have training in acting?
I wish.
I'm like, oh, let's get into today's conversation. There's so many great questions. I have so much to talk about the richness of the book. And again, like I mentioned earlier, you're my first science fiction writer, and this is a genre I've always been interested in because of the milieu of possibilities. And that's one of the reasons why I love this book so much, is because of the possibilities that exist within the text. And I love that you also read the last chapter and the first, because it gives us, not a lot. You may think it's a lot to the people who are listening today, but it's just the beginning for you to buy the book. So please buy the book. So I'm going to start off with today's conversation by asking, because I always love to ask this question: what is the origin story? So what is the origin story of Charlotte and the Chickenman, the inevitable Nigrescence of Charlotte-Noa Tibitt, which I absolutely love the title. And then can you talk a little bit about the story behind the brilliant title?
I too love the title.
Yes.
It began simply as Charlotte and the Chickenman. And when I pitched this to my publisher at Whiskey Tit, she loved it too. And that was years ago. Actually, this book has been years and years in the making. But towards the end of the editing process, I stumbled over the word Nigrescence, and I liked it. It made me laugh. I looked it up. It made me laugh harder. Then I read more about it, and I started to think. And then I read some more, and I thought, holy shucks, this is me. Not just my alter ego, Charlotte. Not just my. That's what I call Charlotte. She is my alter ego. But as a writer, this is. I never knew there was a word for this. And the word means Nigrescence is a word coined in 1971, I believe, by a professor whose name I don't remember, and a psychology researcher. And it means the process of coming into one's Black identity as a Black American. And the idea being that all of us go through these 4 stages originally. Then it changed to 5, and then but that's not important. What matters is that the idea is that we all start off from a place of innocence and then come to a place, then encounter something that that breaks our innocence or threatens our innocence, knocks at the door of our innocence, of our racial innocence. Sometimes in the form of the N bomb, or some encountering racism in some form or another, or just learning about what our parents went through, something in history, whatever it is. It can be different for everyone, and that makes us look at ourselves differently. And often we look at ourselves negatively after that, because we're children and we're not prepared. We don't understand what it is that what's just slapped us in the face. And depending on your supports and all kinds of things, you'll go through stages involving being in love with your Blackness and hating your Blackness, and retreating from your Blackness, running from your Blackness, or running towards your Blackness and embracing your Blackness. And for a person to become healthy and balanced, the idea in psychology, now it's quite accepted, the idea of Nigrescence is pretty much, it's no longer breaking news. It's no longer on the cutting edge. It's actually, it's, what is the word I'm looking for, Nicole?
It's, and this can lead into, because I'm going to jump around questions a little bit.
It's truth. So that the idea,
it's truth, yes.
Yeah, this isn't something that psychologists debate anymore. It's something taken for granted. That's what I meant to say.
Yes.
And it's definitely useful for psychologists studying who have patients that are Black, and they're finding that it can be useful for other ethnic minorities and other identities too. So it's about coming to terms with how society sees you as an outsider, a minority, a Black person, a queer person, and how you react to that. And Charlotte's going through it. This book is about her Nigrescence, or I like the French pronunciation, Nigrescence. But Nigrescence is funny because it sounds like you're about to say drop the N bomb, and then it makes a lot of people who uncomfortable. I found I was surprised, but I've learned in the past year that this book has been out. People don't like to, they don't like to say it. Booksellers don't like to see it. It makes people nervous. It makes people uncomfortable.
Wow.
Yeah, but I don't regret it. I don't regret it, because that's what writers are here to do. That's what I believe that my mission is, that all of us who write, your mission, we're not here to make anyone comfortable. We're here to shake things up. If you read something and you feel very comfortable and you feel exactly the same and you just go back, then maybe I suggest maybe it wasn't such a great book. I think that you have to feel attracted to it, and you have to and allow your feelings to come, be repelled. And why do I feel repelled by that Nigrescence? What is repellent about it? Let me look it up. Let me see what it means. Is it repellent, or is society repellent? Did I just go in loop-de-loops and circles?
No. You're on to something, because that was one of the big things when I was preparing for today. In terms of the title, the Nigrescence was the word that I was like, I want to make sure I pronounce this correctly. like that. So
Nigrescence.
So to hear, it's so interesting. So to hear others have pushed away from it, I was pushing towards it, but also too, I'm radical myself anyway. And the reason why I want to make sure that word was pronounced correctly, because of the journey, and this leads into my next question, because of the journey that we witnessed Charlotte takes. And and this is why I also love that the story is backwards, because the means in which we reach our blackness is not, it's not linear at
Yeah,
all. Like I'll be
we get it.
44. Yeah, I'll be 44 in a couple of weeks, and there's still a lot of things that I question about my identity, even though I'm the surest that I've ever been in my blackness since I was born. But now I'm like, fuck. Like, am I,
I'm
you
so glad you
know,
said fuck first, by the way. I have
oh,
no,
what's that?
I'm so glad you said fuck first. I just want to know.
Yes.
I've been feeling, I've been holding myself very tight. Like, don't say it. Don't.
So that's one of the reasons why Black Writers Read is why I'm independent, is because I want my guests to feel uncensored and free to speak. Like they're like on some of the platforms that I publish through, it is they do censor it, but overall we're not censored. So I'm like, feel free to drop, create language, whatever you need to do.
It's hard
But
to censor and think creatively and honestly at the same time. So
right, exactly. And so this is why like I appreciated that this word has such prominence in the title. Like because it's the truth. Like this is what Charlotte is going through. Like one of the first things that I thought about as reading this, and this is the question. I'll jump to this question first. When I was reading like the first couple of like the first chapter in terms of food and like the relationship with food and food as a resource, I, think of my exploration in terms of like the shaming of food, especially when it comes to the African American specific experience. And
mm,
I'm from Detroit, but a lot of my family's from the South and migrated north. And it's so interesting the things that, you know, my particular culture was shamed of, like kale greens and collard greens. I'm seeing it now in like very high end restaurants and like, very expensive to buy. And I was just like, wait a minute, wait, when did it become
oh, right. I hear
right?
you.
Yeah, like when did it become right? Oh, because it became white. Okay, why? So this leads, into the next question that I have for you, which folks who are new, I to watching and listening, I am very particular with the experience that I want to curate for my guests. Like one of the things I do is I send them the questions ahead of time just to make sure that these are things that are up for discussion, but also too, I want them to be a part of curating the experience. And so this is one of the questions that all the questions I sent ahead of time, but this one was the most. It took me the longest time to come up with this question because of how food operates as a device in this book. So, food as a resource plays a huge role in Charlotte and the Chickenman in terms of what is food and how it should be obtained. Can you talk about the purpose of this particular narrative device, what it serves in the book, and why does what is food play such a significant role in the book? Because of course you open with something about cannibalism, which is very risky, and this is why I love risk takers. I love that that's how the book opens. So if you wanted to talk a little bit about
Yeah,
food as a character in the book.
sure. Gosh, without food is what food is what makes us human, and it's what makes us sentient. It's what makes us and sustains our life. Without eating that's the one thing that we all do. That's the one thing that we have in common with every other person on the earth and most many creatures on the earth is that we need food. We do it every day. We eat every day. And it's because we take it for granted in this country, it's easy to overlook the meaning behind, huh, well, it's easy to downplay the importance of the meaning behind what we eat and how we eat and why, when we do it and who we do it with and why we make these choices and what choices are made for us and what it means to be fed and what it means to be starved, what it means to be stuffed and what it means to purge. There's no food in life. How can we talk about living if we don't talk about eating? But we have to talk about eating honestly. And it's not easy to do. Shame, food and shame is huge. Black women and food and shame, bigger, huger, heavier. It can be hard to talk about because I think there's some pressure in our community to see food in certain ways and not in others, to talk about food in certain ways and not in others. I don't like to speak with broad strokes and broad generalizations, but I don't think I'm off base here. I think this should resonate, will resonate, resonates with a lot of us. If I sound now there's a voice in the back of my head. It's a journalism professor, and it's also an editor saying, what the hell are you even saying? What are you saying? These are not these. Be more concrete. Give us your point. Give us like support it. Give examples. But I can't, and that's why this isn't a work of. This isn't nonfiction. This isn't. I'm still searching for the language to. I'm still searching for the right words. I don't even know if the right words exist for my answer to your question, but I think I'm getting closer.
Yeah, like food is such a personal experience. Like as you were giving your response, I'm like, food is extremely subjective. Yeah, culture and society really want to objectify it and also like really like people don't realize like how important, and thank you for mentioning that it's something that we share and it is such an important resource. Like I grew up in Detroit. I grew up in a food desert. I grew up in the hood where like there was a stretch of Livernois, which is a pretty major street that cuts through a bunch of suburbs and also cuts through parts of downtown. And the neighborhood that I grew up in, there was within just a corner, not even a block, but a corner, there was a Wendy's, a McDonald's, a Popeyes, a Church's Chicken, and something else. And even within a mile, there was like 3 other McDonald's, but there was like barely a grocery store. And then the grocery store, because of how like shipping products worked, we got the bottom of the barrel. So it's like by the time produce got to us, it was already spoiling.
Sure.
So, right. And so people always question like why folks from particular areas of the country, both urban and rural, why there's more obesity. But I'm like, you're looking at the personal experience and not the world that was curated for that family.
Sure.
And yeah, and so that's why I really appreciated the role that food plays in the book because of its many functions, but at the same time, food is used in the real world. And this is why science fiction, for me, is such a brilliant genre. For me, it's this genre that flips a mirror onto society, not only critiquing it, but also imagining what's possible, but then also forecasting what could possibly happen. So that's why I love science fiction, because of the like quadruple roles that it plays. And so a lot of times with science fiction, you're not necessarily, and especially like with the cannibalism, you're not necessarily getting the literal experience. You're getting what is the critique that the author has about a related experience.
Yes. Yes. So did that help you get, I think the first couple chapters can be difficult for some people because they have trouble with the cannibalism, with the eating white people. That's what it's about. I mean, I'll summarize a little bit for people who haven't read it. It's that first chapter. If it wasn't clear to you while I was reading, that first chapter was they went to a restaurant that serves tourists, white tourists that get selected based on some method, some pseudoscientific method, but a scientific method that determines which ones might be bad eggs, might be, it's better that society not have them around because there's too many people to begin with, and it just makes sense environmentally. And I know that this is difficult for people for religious reasons or just emotional reasons, but it's not difficult for me. I think that if we didn't even talk about speciesism, but it's the idea of speciesism being that to say that human beings are somehow special and should be excluded from the food chain, that we shouldn't even think about eating flesh from humans. It's just disgusting to think about. I think that that's just what is that but cultural indoctrination? I mean, I think that it's a subject worth interrogating, and so yeah. You know what? I don't want to go. I could actually go pretty far into left field on this, but I want to rein myself in a little bit.
Yeah, so I can take us to another question. Another thing that I thought that was very brilliant about the book was how it opens. It opens in 2060 IAT, which for those in the colonized world know it as Haiti. It is a very bold choice, and especially I believe it's an even bolder choice given for folks if you know about Haiti's history,
Yeah.
specifically the the Afro-Caribbeanness and the identity. They're like the first. I'm gonna get this fact incorrect, but around like liberation and slavery. So
You're getting it. You won't get it wrong. You've got it.
yeah, and so that's why I was like, yes, I love that you set the book in like the blackest country outside of like the African continent.
And the most misunderstood
Yeah.
country, and a country that I've been in love with, and a culture that I've been in love with for a very, very long time. I really don't remember exactly what made me latch onto Haiti, but I did. Like many of us, I have family from the Caribbean, but not the French Caribbean, but St. Kitts, St. Croix. And so there was already a connection to that region. But I just have a thing for Haiti. And then I went there in the early 2000s when I was reporting for The Voice, when Aristide was removed. The U.S., little background, the U.S. helped remove him with the help of Canada and France, because most historians now agree that the U.S. pretty much didn't want Aristide to. It's the story of the U.S. throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. Just we're afraid of socialism, not afraid of it. I mean, we want to protect our corporations, the multinationals, from socialism. So Aristide, a pretty socialist guy, and although he agreed to buy into some of what the World WHO and the big national organization said he had to do, and mostly that's the U.S. telling other countries what to do. Although he agreed to our plan to reorganize his country's economy, he didn't stick to it. And so we decided that he had to go. So we helped organize his ousting in 2005. And I went down, my wife and I went down to cover it. Some of the results of that, which was just chaos in the country. That once again, this is the U.S. Imposing chaos onto Haiti, not Haitians somehow just being so. I mean, the narrative is, oh, the poor Haitians. So many things have happened to them. They had a great shining moment in 1791, but it's been downhill since then. Poor Haiti, and then bad luck, earthquake, bad luck, and just poverty, and poor. But actually, the story is more like Haiti was the first. Haiti is home to. Haiti is the first country in the Western Hemisphere that's born out of slavery. The first successful slave rebellion that led into independence, and that's in the entire world. Actually, I mean, there are no other countries that were founded in this way, and Haiti is amazing, and the people are amazing, and the culture is amazing, and the U.S. has done everything in its power to undermine Haiti's success. That's the story of 2005 in Haiti, and that's the story of Haiti today. I don't know why I never learned any of this in school. I wish that I had. But one day, I hope soon, that history books will mark Haiti as the beginning, the center of Western civilization, because I believe that there's a strong argument to be made for that. And I believe Haiti will come into its own. I really do.
Haiti is such a beautiful country. I do, and I didn't learn about, and I, grew up in Detroit, which was like pro Black, but it's pro African American experience. I didn't learn about Haiti until I moved here to New England, where there are large pockets of folks from Haiti and from the Caribbean, and so hearing the experience from folks directly from that country is just so beautiful. So thank you for honoring such a beautiful country in your work in the way that you do.
Yeah, and I wanted to show Haiti how it could be, and not the people. I wanted to show a different side of Haiti. Of course, every country has its wealthy people and its fancy kind of high culture, and what we call the developing or the third world is no exception to that. So but I wanted to show the intellectual and the worldly and group of Haitians that, much like the Haitians that I got to know, and the Haitians that I know are very, very interested in their history. They know Western Civ history. They know it. They know the dates. They know the names. They know it all, and they know their history extraordinarily well. They live they're still making their history, and they own it. And it was eye-opening to learn from them and to talk with them, because political science and history go hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. You have to know both. So when you talk politics with a Haitian, you're also talking history, and wonderful storytellers. And I cannot wait to write more about Haiti. I have a book in mind that will take place starting in 1791, a historical. It'll go back in time and then forward in time. And It's exciting. That was an aside. I
Nice.
I diverge.
Yeah,
Um,
so yeah, I would love to take us into the last couple of questions where I have specific questions about like writing in this particular genre and the turn that you took in your career. So I would love for you to talk about how did you arrive to writing fiction and then science fiction in particular?
right. The relationship between farm animal rights and women's rights and civil rights. As a Black person, I knew that there was a connection. I felt passionate about each of the 3 points, but for the longest time, and actually not until a few years ago did I really begin to consciously and then realize that, oh yeah, not only are they connected because they are things that are important to me, but they're connected because our society thrives on all three: speciesism and racism and sexism. And I thought, as a journalist, I thought I can explore this topic by reporting stories about them and talking to people that know a lot more than I do, and bringing their stories to light and putting them together and investigating things that happen in CAFOs, the central feeding operations, those horrible factory farms. For example, the Black and brown women that have no choice other than to work at Purdue, and poor whites, of course, too, but and what they go through, and the forced labor, the prison labor that in the factory farms, the hog farms in North Carolina, and we can see these three. But it didn't do the job. It wasn't satisfying. I never really got the feeling that I was doing enough or that I was fulfilling my purpose.
Hmm.
And I thought, okay, well, I'm telling people these important facts. So change has to happen. I mean, it will happen. I just have to have faith. I just have to continue to do my part, which is reporting these stories. And maybe if I can get somewhere to an organization that puts more weight on these stories, or that puts it, then maybe things will get better. But in the meantime, I just need to keep plugging away. But I found that I was just like riding a bike in place, that I wasn't getting anywhere fast. I didn't feel like I was making real change. And why? Because it was a puzzle to me, because here this is a story about Black and brown children that have to work at Purdue, that are losing their limbs, that they have no doctors, that are and then to make a product that you're going to eat, that people are going to eat, that's going to kill us, that kills us in higher numbers than anyone else on the planet. That my father died at age 62. He was a enormous a meat enthusiast, and I mean, there were many things wrong with his health, but that certainly didn't help. And our Black men, they're dying so young. Like it's not unusual enough for a healthy Black man to die that young in this country. But no change. And I thought, and then there's animal welfare. Then how can we look at these animals in the face? How can we do our jobs and just go about our daily lives knowing that as we speak, these pigs are being not just dying and being tortured in the worst ways. And why is nothing happening? Why is nobody doing anything? Maybe people need more information. And I got to the point where I decided, you know what, people have enough information. People know what's happening. People know, but there's something missing. And maybe what's missing is that facts are not enough to make any of us change. Knowing that it would be better if we made another choice, it's not enough. There's a component to writing fiction, writing from the heart, finding the words to express your meaning, your emotional truth. If I can tap into that, if I can tap into my feeling and share my feelings with others through story, not through preaching, not through, here's my story, and everybody, this is what I'm going to show you. Feel bad. I want you to feel bad with me so that we can feel bad together, and hopefully you'll stop your behavior. Not like that. Through sharing with with the world, with others, how I feel, and getting them, and creating a space for them to join me and look through my eyes, and then it hopefully tap into something in them that they can then share how they feel. And then if we can come to an agreement that this is a really important, this feels really gross, and yeah, this feels really gross, this can't continue, then maybe together we can work on a solution. But me telling you how to feel, I guess, didn't work. Me giving you the facts didn't work. So this is my final effort. I'm going to share with you through story, through my imagination, my creativity, through my vision. I'm going to let you in. And when you get in and you see what I see, if you see what I see, then I think change will happen. I think then something will happen.
Which is why Charlotte's an activist. And this is why I call, like, I'm very selfish when it comes to Black Writers Read. I'm not going to lie. Like, I curate the people who are on for a very particular reason. They're master classes for me personally. And you gave me a perspective that I never thought about, in terms of journalism and fiction, because they're both storytelling mechanisms, but they have a very clear purpose. Like, I always think about like the early years of the news, like in the 60s, like with I hope I remember the name correctly, like Edward Morrow and all of those folks, where they're like, we're telling facts, whereas now, over the past couple of decades, the news has become, not only are we going to give you the facts, but we are going to dictate to you how to receive and interpret the information, and then how to integrate it into your own life. Whereas with fiction, you choose to come to it. And so when you go to something by choice, and it's a very activist mechanism, I feel like people receive the message a lot better because they're not forced to engage with the material. Whereas with the news, like, I have so many people who are like, I stopped watching the news after this point. I stopped watching the news after this point. But then they're like, oh, we're not getting our news. Like, I had this conversation with my students last week. They're like, we're not getting our news. But then as we're talking and we talk about the other means, like talking with friends, talking within the community, looking at social media, I'm like, yeah, you're getting your news, but you're getting your news by choice. You're filtering by choice as opposed to having it inundated. So I love the very clear distinction, Ina, that you just offered about the storytelling mechanisms of journalism and the storytelling mechanisms of fiction, and why fiction, I even see this with plays, why those devices have the power to change more so than journalism and telling the news, because of the autonomy and the choice that we have in going to the material.
Sure. No, I think when we talk story, when you read story, no one is telling you how to feel, and I don't want to tell anyone how to feel. But I hope that by what I created, I hope that people come to a conclusion that puts them in the room with me. That's what I hope. That's my highest hope. I don't dare hope that I change everyone's mind and make everyone think the way I do. I don't. But I don't even see that as a possibility. But I just want to draw in all the readers that identify with some aspect of Charlotte, of her journey and for personality, of whatever draws you to my book, whether it's through the sci-fi lens or through the fact that it's the coming of age of a young Black woman, or if it's through because it's a queer story, which it is, or because it's a lesbian story, which it is, or because it's marginal, just somebody who's just even if society were not the way it is and will be in the near future, I predict, someone who just doesn't fit in, someone who was born different, iconoclastic, unusual, eccentric, artistic, artist. Artists were always a bit on the outside. Even if society weren't the way it is, I'm just going to go back a little bit. Even if it weren't bigoted and classist and racist and sexist and everything, she would still be on the outside because she's an artist. Yeah. Right. And right, lost my train of thought.
No, you're good. And this takes us into another, the last two questions. So I want to give a shout out to your publisher, Whitney Tit Books, who I'm going to read.
Tit, thank you. Yes,
yes.
She put us together. And it's very cool. It's Revenge of the Nerds.
Yes. I'm going to read from your book, about the publisher, so that folks have a little bit of context. So Whiskey Tit is committed to restoring degradation and degeneracy to the literary arts. We work with authors who are unwilling to sacrifice intellectual rigor, unrelenting playfulness, and visual beauty in our literary pursuits, often leading to texts that would otherwise be abandoned in today's largely homogenized literary landscape. In a world governed by idiocy, our commitment to these principles is an act of civil service and civil disobedience alike. So I'd love to talk about how did you find Whiskey Tit Books? And
that was pure serendipity. It was wow. I took I got an email from a writers group that run by a guy, I think it no longer exists, in Vermont, and it said that I would get all the workshop would be free for 3 days. I just had to pay for meals, and I had the time and I wanted to do it, and I had the idea that I was finally going to write my book, and it turned out to be an interesting experience, positive and negative one. But the best thing about it is that through that group, I met someone who became an acquaintance who introduced me to the publisher. So it was just pure chance. It never would have happened if through this chain of events. So, and I was so happy that she liked my work. And it's good. It's a good fit for me. I'm pathologically adverse to rejection. I mean, no one likes rejection. And as a writer, you get it all the time. And they say you have to develop a thick skin. Well, I haven't. I mean, I have no thick skin. Rejections just put me under the table. So I had tried to find agents and publishers, but each rejection seriously put me into this. So when she said, yes, we want you, I said, oh, thank God. Thank God. And I didn't know what she was about or if she was for real or anything. But as time went on and I began to see, oh, she is for real. This is actually a very good fit. It's not just, it became not just because well, she's the only one who took me. It became, yes, actually, if I could sign a contract today, I would sign a contract with her and not with, I'm very glad. And speaking of, I think that this is part of the question too. I mean, a lot of us want to go to a big publisher, and that's what we dream about. And you think that's how I can reach the most people. And I think that there's pros that I don't have to enumerate to go in with a big publisher. But if you find a publisher who loves your work and believes in your work, believes in you as an artist and believes in your vision, believes that not only do they like your work, but they believe they like your potential. And if you find someone like that, the only advice that I would say, go with them, because that is so much more important than things like what they promise you, or the size of it, or the prestigiousness, the beauty of saying I'm with so and so, because those relationships aren't real. It's good to go for what's real.
Yeah, and thanks for mentioning that, because I've had a number of authors who were published by Jaded Ibis Press, and they talk about the beautiful experience of working with them in terms of like the editors that you get to work with and all these folk. And I just remember even too, I was like, I could tell that Whiskey Tit was beautiful to work with, just, from my social media interaction with them over the weekend in terms of preparing for this episode. And I was just like, wow, like that's the experience which I'm hoping, to publish at some point. But that's the experience that people want. It's not that they need to be with a recognizable publisher. They need to be with a publisher that's going to champion their work.
Yes.
And also give them the space to do their work and not dictate to them what it should be. And
Sure.
so I'm glad to hear that
someone who gets work.
Yeah, that you had such a beautiful experience with your publisher.
Yeah, I really have. Yeah, and I'll say this: Brooklyn Book Festival is next weekend, and Whiskey Tit will be there, and I will be with Whiskey Tit tabling, and I believe that's on Sunday, the table, but on Monday for sure there's going to be reading, a great big reading planned. There is every year at this time, and so check in on the website and on social media, the Whiskey Tit, if you follow Whiskey Tit, to learn more about it. Because it's a free event, I believe October 2nd. And I'll be reading along with a lot of other fabulous readers. I mean,
nice. Yeah, and I think I saw something on social media about that, and I'll make sure to share it too, so that folks who are in the region are able to go and meet you in person. Like, that'll be awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last question I have for you is, besides the amazing book fest that you have next week, what is next for you, and how can the Black Writers Read community support you in this work?
The book that I'm working on now, that will come out first, is called Eat Whitey. It's spelled EATYTE, so, which is also my handle.
I was going to ask about that. I was like, she has such a unique. I'm about to pull it back up now. I was like, she has such a unique Instagram handle.
Oh yeah, Eat Your Whitey. That's what I changed it to. Eat Your Whitey. So that just makes me laugh whenever I look at it. And again, but I think we have something in common personality-wise, because maybe iconoclastic. We both kind of enjoy ruffling feathers a little bit. So the fact that it makes people a little bit uncomfortable, people ask me, one person on social media asked me, I just have to ask you, what is the pronunciation of your handle? And so
really?
And then like white tea, and
really.
I waited for the next question, and then I said, yes, well, and then I explained, and what I mean, it obviously, clearly it refers to Charlotte and the Chickenman. That's the opening scene, is that they are at a restaurant and they are dining on white flesh. Yes, that's true.
Yes.
And yes, you're right. Food is a metaphor, and it is a metaphor for many things. It can be, people can think about that. I think about it a lot, but also it's real. I mean, it really is. It's real for the book. They really do. There's, make no mistake, there is cannibalism. This happens. This is in the book. We're eating white people. Yes.
Yes.
And waiting for the drone to come in and like shoot. But
Yes.
we're in a surveillance state. But I feel like if I'm really out, if I put it out there, yes, this is what I'm doing, then there's nothing, no surprises, nothing sneaky. No one can accuse me of collusion or conspiracy.
Yes.
But also, eat your whitey. I changed it to that. It's more precise because, and it's the title of my next book. So that was the answer to your question. My next book is Eat
Nice.
Whitey, a pataphysical companion to Charlotte and the Chickenman.
Yes.
Pataphysics is a word that I learned last year, and much like Nigrescence, I read it, I looked it up, and I fell in love with it. So it's the science of the absurd. That's my next project. Let me just go back a little bit now for just 1 second. I have to eat your whitey. So not only am I talking about the book in that concrete, that very concrete way, but I'm talking about the whitey inside of us, the little whitey inside of me, which is the dominant culture, and the little voice saying, or the big I, which is also in the book, the big I watching the white gaze, the mainstream gaze, it also, and also the male gaze, the white male gaze. Also, it's on the cover of the book, it's a big blue eyeball.
Yes.
Here. Eat, consume, destroy that part of you that says censor yourself, that says you might not be doing it right, so don't, or just better be quiet, better do things the way they've always been done, better to just follow the leader, better to just stay in your place, better to just leave well enough alone, better not to ruffle feathers, better be seen, not heard, whatever. That little voice. Charlotte says, my alter ego, I say, eat it. Yeah. See what happens. Because it's you might be surprised. And I think that most of us, if you were born in this country, have a little whitey inside of us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Whatever your color, it doesn't matter.
And honestly, like, that whiteness inside me is what, and capitalism is what has kept me from pursuing a lot of my dreams. Like, I'm not gonna lie, there's so many things that I want to be doing right now. There's a lot of artistic projects that I want to do, but I'm like, I don't have the money. Like, Black Writers Read right now is self-funded. I've maxed out credit cards. So it's like, but I need to keep telling myself, if I want to tell that story, I need to put it out there after I finish my dissertation. And because I am that voice, like, I am that iconoclast, which I never, thought of myself as that, but I am. Like, I am not only, I'm that voice on the edge that has like a bullhorn, and I'm like, yo, I'm different. I was that kid. I'm fortunate that I was that kid. I grew up originally as an only child, and my parents had another kid.
Oh, you too.
Yes. But I grew up as an only child for 15 years. But what I loved about my parents, and they're now both deceased, is I was not that child who be seen and not heard. Nope. My parents took me everywhere with them. I was always a part of adult conversations. I always took the stage at different parties and told stories and made people laugh. Like, I was that kid. I was that kid who, always spoke up and people looked to for things. So I've always been ruffling the margins. Like even like at my jobs, people are like, one of the things we like about you, Nicole, is that you are very transparent. Like and this is why there's certain fields that I stay away from because I'm like, I need to be myself. I need to be the one who has the long nails and the tattoos and the natural hair, and the big mouth and who pushes and resists a lot of things. So the long and the short of it is,
I want to know who's the little whitey in you, like who
yeah,
who is that little person in you then? If it sounds like your parents didn't try to keep you down.
it's as I became an adult and got into deep debt, I have to, and now having a family, it's like and my family is very piecemeal because it's not like I have a stepdaughter and I have a brother and they're both, of special needs, but it's like I have no choice but to always be making money. And I don't like that.
That's why you said capitalism is yours.
Yes.
That's what you said. I get it.
Oh yeah, like capitalism is mine because it's like I would love to be able, to take a sabbatical because I know some people have taken sabbaticals and not worked and like worked on their passions and then the money came, but I'm like I have bills knocking on my door. Like I'm in deep medical debt, I'm in deep student loan debt, credit card debt. So, so that's the whitey in me, the fact that I have to keep working and working at a certain level because I have like 3 or 4 jobs to be able to be able to keep my house afloat. So
and you curate this show. Jeez.
yes. Oh, I do, and a lot has not gotten done, and a lot has to get done, and yeah. So, and I'm really hoping to release some chains over the next year or so, like after I get my doctorate, because I really want to do more consulting work. Like, there's just a lot that I need to release, but in order to do that, there's a lot of things that I need to put in place. But that's the whitey in me is capitalism.
Wow.
Hugely.
Now that gives me something to think about.
Mm.
Thank you for that.
Capitalism is a bitch.
You little bitch.
Yeah, you little bitch. Yes, it is like the worst. It is like a mean girl. It's a bully. It's a bully, and I'm just like, I'm telling you, you can't do these things because of these things, and I'm like, I know I can. I just need to like get myself in a position to be able to just let it all go, and then yeah, capitalism is that bully from middle school. I'm just like, ugh.
Beat her up after the show.
Yes!
Where do you want to meet? We can meet in East Hampton somewhere.
Like, bitch,
I'll bring
me on the playground.
You want to fight? Go out tonight.
Yes. Aina, thank you so much for an amazing, amazing conversation.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad to know you.
Yes, me too. And thank you for like reaching out and like just being an amazing author and like
thank you for creating this forum, this place for us. I mean, thank God it exists. I'm so happy to have found it and you.
Yeah. So I'm gonna take over a little bit, wrap us up for the now evening because it's 5 o'clock. But this has been such a great conversation.
Oh God, I have such a big mouth.
No, this was great. Miss, I'm an introvert. I'm like, okay.
Oh God.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you.
This was awesome. Yes, I'll be checking back in with you soon. Thank you so much.
Bye.
So thank you so much for joining us for, an amazing episode 3 of season 4. It went in such a beautiful direction. I love my guests. Thank you for the privilege of speaking with you. Be sure to check out our website at blackwritersread.com for past episodes and information on upcoming guests and events. Excuse me, now my cough is here. for people who have been on, I've been doing okay until just now. Subscribe to my YouTube channel to keep up with episodes of both Black Writers Read and my other projects. Also, be sure to subscribe to the audio podcast, excuse me, which is available on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, and Google Podcasts, as we post audio from each episode about a week or so after the live stream. Thank you so much for spending your afternoon and early evening with us, and more importantly, for ensuring that Black authors continue to matter. See you soon.